Hello, this is Jan from Red Toad Art Studio with you again, and we are going to color or watercolor the bunny we drew in our last video. And if you would like to see that, that is on our website or on our YouTube channel. We have already drawn and inked our video, so we're to this stage. And before I forget it, if you would like to know how to draw and not worry about going and finding another video, you can download our free instruction sheet that is on our website, or you can download it right here on YouTube. It's listed under our information section. And there's 2 pages to that takes you right from the beginning to the end of our little bunny. So we have already drawn him and we have inked him. So now we are going to watercolor him. Now I'm using watercolor paper. My brush is my Artscape brush, size number 5, not too expensive. And I am using my good old faithful Crayola. Yes, I have some wonderful paints, but I want to use these paints to show you that you can do some cute pictures and still use this was about $4 or $5 art set. It's a Crayola brand. In fact, you can see that right here if I switch it over. Crayola watercolors. Now we need to activate our paint, and we need to activate the red. Which red? I'll just use this red. To make our pink with, we need a little bit of blue for the heart, or you can use any color you want. We want some greens for that grass. And let's see, some sky blue up here. And we'll activate the black, which is over here, because with a white rabbit, we will need some light gray shadows. And we will have to do some paint mixing. That's one reason I used Crayola today, so that you can see that we can mix colors in Crayola. So the first thing I'm going to paint is the pink of his ears and the pink of his nose. Just a little bit. So I like to use a medicine dropper. You don't have to. But I'm going to drop some paint. Ooh, there's some green there. And I'm going to come down here and mix some pink with. So that'll be for the pink. And I'm going to come over here with another one to mix some gray with. I think that's about all we need to do right now. Now, how do I do that? I just go in here, get my brush wet, and I'm going to swish it in my red here. And come over here. Ooh, that's the wrong one. That's some pretty orange, isn't it? I always get those mixed up, even though I have them labeled. You know what we need to do. Oh, I forgot to mention, you will need some paper towels for when you make mistakes like that. Clean your brush. And we'll mix some pink over here. Alright, let's stir up a little bit of red over here. Let's see if this doesn't work better. There we go. Okay, look at that pink. Just what we wanted. Now, actually, I've mixed up way too much paint here. So you don't have to do too much. Now, when I mix paint up, I like to have a little scrap piece of paper to test it and see if this is what I want. So, are we getting a pink? Oh, yes, we're getting a pink. I think I'll get just a little bit more red and get a little darker pink. There we go. Just what we needed, I bet. Perfect. So, let's go over here and paint in our rabbit's ears. It's going to take just a fraction of this paint we mixed, so be very careful. A couple or 3 drops of water will mix a lot of paint. And we're starting with one of our lightest colors here, which is the pink. One brushful is doing it. Well, if you were right here, you could use some of my pink. And now I'm going to give his nose just a little dab of pink. There we go. Isn't he cute? All right. Now I need to clean my brush. I need to mix that black now to make some gray. So I'm going to get a little bit of black on my brush. We don't want it too dark. And I'm going to mix over here. That's a very light gray. Let's get just a tiny bit more. Ooh, that's pretty dark. That's all right. I think that will be just right. So let me get my slip here and let's see what we have. See that? I just want gray. I think that will just do perfectly. Now, we're going to just put some shadows on his body. So clean your brush off. And we're going to do a wet on wet technique. So come in here and just get his body wet. Now, here is something to remember with watercolor. Where the water is, that's where the paint will go. So, any place you don't want this gray to move into, be sure it's dry. So, don't get water on that little heart. We're not going to put water on part of the head, and we're not even going to do the tail right now. We're just going to do his body part, like this, on his tummy. Up around that heart and the sides of his head. That's all we're going to worry about right now. Now, this is kind of tricky. Get just a little bit of that gray on, and I mean a little bit, and dab it in kind of at the edges. Now, I didn't do a step I should have, and I should have taped this picture down because when I added that extra water, it wants to wrinkle and warp on me. And then just add around some of the edges here just a little bit of that gray, which will give it a little bit of a shadow effect, not a lot. And let the water that was on there just move it to where it wants it to go. I'm going to come in here and give some under his tummy here. This will help him stand out. He's a white rabbit, but white gives gray shadows. And it will separate him a little bit from the white of your paper. See how that looks? A good little bit up in here. Now, don't get up into the areas where you're having to do dry. You'll need to re-wet that. See how he looks? Maybe a little shadow under his heart here. Now, lesson learned. This needed to be taped down. And if you find yourself in this situation, and I should know better, take a moment and tape it down. It'll save you some frustration later. There's my bunny taped down. Now, it won't be quite as efficient as it would have if I'd have done that at the beginning. But you know, I'm a grandma with a short memory. And sometimes until I'm in the middle of doing something do I realize, oh my goodness, I forgot to do it. Now, go ahead and wet around here on the top of his head, down a little bit between his eyes. And then wet his ears. And add just a little bit on his ears. It just gives it a little bit of texture. I can go ahead and do a little bit on his tail, though, because that is the same color as his body color. So let's just add a little bit of shadow markings to his tail. There we go. He's almost done. You notice that? So now we need to let it dry. We don't want to do anything else to this picture until this has dried. So I will be right back with you in a few minutes after this has dried. Okay, I think he's dry enough for me to paint his heart. I want to paint his heart a blue color. So I'm just going to dip straight into my blue. Get a little bit on my brush. Don't need a lot. Now, let's take some blue and mix up a little bit of light blue sky color. Let's just come right over here. Again, I'm mixing up way too much, but that way you can see it. And let's make some light blue. See what that looks like. Just about enough, I think, for some light blue. Now, let's just go in here with the sky and just kind of dab it like that. And make it uneven. That way it looks like there's clouds in the sky. Don't try to do anything real perfect or real even. Now, if you taped yours, it will do a little bit better job than mine, because mine warped a while ago, if you remember, because of my forgetfulness. It's always better to tape your work down. You don't have to, as you saw. You can paint a while, but when it starts to warp and wrinkle, then it gets really hard to paint. So that's why we tape down most of our watercolor work. Now, we just want it to look like a light spring day, so you don't have to cover every little inch of this picture. You're just giving the illusion of a sky up there. A sky with beautiful white clouds. There we go. Now, the one last thing we're going to do is we're going to put a little grass around his feet. So you need to clean your brush. Let's get a little bit of green mixed here. Just a dab, just a couple of drops there. I'm going to use this light spring green first and get into this and mix that. I think that will be good, but let's test it. Yeah. First thing we're going to do is get our brush with water. Be sure this is dry. Mine's still a little damp, but I think it'll work. And you're going to whisk up with your brush. Just flick up like little grass. Little pieces of grass. Now, if you're sure you want to do this grass, you could do some inking of some grass and not have this dark line under here, but that's for you to decide actually when you start drawing. Now, we want to put in a little darker grass. We're going to go straight into this green. It's been activated. And do some darker green wisps of grass. Now, be careful that you don't have too much water on that brush. In fact, I could do with a little less, but I think it's going to work out just fine. There we go. Now all we need to do is sign it, date it if you want, and you could get used to doing this with your brush. Get your brush with a nice tip on it. And what color should we use? I think I'll just use black to sign it with. So I'm going to dip into just a little bit right on the tip, and I'm going to write with my brush. Don't press down too hard. And there I have my signature. we're all done. Now we need to let it dry. Clean off your brush. After you clean it, pull it to a tip so it'll dry nice and pointed, and it will live another day to paint another picture. So as you can see, we have this one, our first one, and here's our second one. Two little bunnies. They look a little different, but awful lot alike. Now, normally you let this dry before you pull the tape off. But I'm going to go ahead and pull this tape off. When you pull it off, pull it away from the picture. Pull gently so you don't tear your paper. You see on this one, I will pull down. And the tape also gives you a wonderful frame border. And there is our Easter bunny. Isn't he cute? I just think he's so cute. I hope you've enjoyed this. And you know, if your first one doesn't come out great, just do another one. Or if you make mistakes, that's absolutely okay. Mistakes is what helps you learn how to paint and how to do better. You learn something from every mistake. So I'm going to say bye for now. We're going to do a cute Easter basket here in a few days to go with this bunny. So I hope you'll come back for that. So bye-bye for now, and enjoy these beautiful spring days.